Hey, welcome to another very exciting episode of the Real Deal podcast. Third week of our Women's History Month series as well. Got a lot of great guests. Got one on deck right now. So it is March Madness too. So let everybody get excited for March Madness. So let's get it. All right. Again, welcome to another episode of the Real Deal podcast. Happy Monday, March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day as well. I'm your host, as always, Courtney Harden. It is March Madness of March. This is the time, if you're a big college basketball fan, this is the time for you. So I hope everyone has looked at their brackets, ready to fill out brackets, all those things, get into these contests and everything too. So good luck to everyone out there on the men's and women's side as well. But again, this is the third week of our Women's History Month series where I highlight and spotlight incredible women in this space, whether it's media, journalism, sports, business, content creation, whatever it is. But I got a great guest on the way, so I'm not going to keep her in the background too much longer. But before I bring her on, you can follow the show on all the podcast platforms, whether it's Spotify, Apple. We're on the bs3tvlive.com website, BS3 Network, Roku channel as well. You can follow me on @Get the Real Deal on all the social media platforms. All right, well, let me bring in my guest, incredible woman, very talented, women's sports reporter for the New York Post. She's done a little bit of everything, with reporting, but we're going to get into a lot of women's sports here on this edition of the Real Deal podcast. So, Madeline Kenney, welcome to the show. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for accepting the invite. And like I said, I wanted to highlight you and spotlight you here. And it says Women's History Month, so it's only right. So you're the first one of this week. So again, thank you. Really appreciate
I'm honored. Thank you.
For sure. But how are you doing? I know it's like this is one of the busiest times of the year of the women's sport that you cover, things like that. But you cover it all year round. So, but how's everything going? And are you ready for this March Madness coming up?
Yeah, it's definitely starting to really pick up, especially the last week or so. We had a pretty big March Madness Selection Sunday section that's in today's paper. And so,
which I do have.
Which you do have, yeah, doing up on that. And then, last night, writing on Deadline, just the different regional capsules, bracket breakers, bracket busters, players to watch, teams, picks, all that stuff. So, I mean, it's been really fun. And then, of course, the Liberty announced a trade while all the chaos is happening. I always joke that teams wait for the most inopportune times to announce news, and
you're right.
It couldn't be a better time for them if that's their goal than during Selection Sunday and all of the chaos that comes with it. But you know what? It's good. All is well, and I'm just really excited. I love being busy, and March Madness is one of my favorite sporting events ever, year during the annual calendar. So I'm just really excited to be able to be a part of it and be able to cover it and kind of have a front row seat to some parts of it.
For sure, yeah, and like I told you, I read a lot of your things, a lot of your articles, and follow you and things like that. So do tremendous work, and we'll get into the March Madness towards the end of the show. But yeah, you're right. It is funny that other leagues and they do find the most inopportune times to trade or something like that. Like, okay, the Super Bowl happens and then the NBA do a big old trade. I think that was the Luka trade, I believe, that happened around that same time, or free agents, something like that.
Yeah, it was near that time. I just remember the Luka trade. I was like half asleep, and I thought I was delirious and making it up. I'm like, this is what?
It's not happening, right?
Bombs get hacked. I mean, geez.
Yeah.
Fair enough. We haven't woken up from the dream yet, so I guess it's reality.
Right, right. Yeah, I think you're right. I think these leagues, they know, they see everything that's going on. I was like, oh yeah, Super Bowl's happening. Oh yeah, let's make this big blockbuster trade on this time
Mhm.
this week so we can get a little bit of coverage here. And as you said, the Liberty makes a trade, and they get a trade, and it's like, oh yeah, but March Madness is at the selection Sunday too. But yeah, we'll do it here on this day. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
it. But
To be fair, I do not think the Liberty were intentionally trying to
no,
go
I don't
here
think
in this
so either.
case,
I
but
agree.
it's a great trade for them. I mean, to get
Yes.
a veteran player like Natasha Cloud, I mean, she's going to totally elevate them in terms of
Yeah.
what they want to do this season. They needed a veteran guard like her,
Mhm.
just to help bolster out some of the roster and take up some of the more minutes. And so I think that overall is a great trade.
It was a great
Poor
trade for
timing,
sure.
great trade.
Timing, yes, yes, yes. The timing will say great trade for sure.
But poor timing only for me. I'm just
Yeah.
I'm sorry. We can continue.
Yeah, I'm sure, like you said, you have to stay up even later and deadlines and all that. You talked about that as well. So, but like you said, it's busy. I'm
Mhm.
sure you're blessed to have that position, that job to be able to and to get a bunch of news. So we got some comments in here from Nathan Ramachandra from the Nathan Sports Rush. He says, "Good morning, keep up the great work," and he said, "Huge pickup for the Liberty. So teams fun to watch as they defend their title." Yeah, we'll get into. I get into a little. Well, I got to get into some WNBA too. But first question I want to ask you is, and I always ask my first time guest, who is Madeline Kenney first and foremost, and how would you get into sports reporting, writing, and just a love of sports?
Yeah. I'll give the short summary of some of my
Right.
background, but I grew up in Lincoln, Nebraska, huge Cornhusker fan. I mean,
Okay.
live and breathe Nebraska football and women's volleyball has been big since I was a kid there. Obviously, volleyball is on a huge hype train right now, and it's
Yeah.
really trendy and hopefully becomes even more mainstream. But Nebraska volleyball has been big since as long as I can remember. My
Yeah.
parents used to take me to gymnastics meets, like all that stuff. So I have 7 brothers, so I didn't really have a choice but to love sports. They
Yeah.
always were playing football in the backyard and
Right.
all of that stuff. And so they definitely toughened me up. And I did sports myself growing up. And I just decided, like, first I wanted to be a DJ. And my mom
Hmm.
was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Like, you got to go to college and stuff like that. And so journalism was, the segue to it. And then I
Okay.
remember watching a football game and Aaron Andrews. And I was like, you know what? I think I want to be the Burnett version of Aaron Andrews. And so
Okay.
um, went to college, went to Loyola Chicago, go Ramblers, and uh, decided, I loved writing. And so I decided to take that path first because everyone told me that, some of the best sideline reporters and TV talents in general were really strong print reporters at
Mhm.
one point in their career. And so
Yeah.
I, took that route, got my first job at the Chicago Sun-Times, kind of in the social media, digital content production realm. And I just kind of kept pestering the sports editor, and I was very persistent and just kind of kept telling him I really wanted to be in sports. And sure enough, an opportunity came up, and I was doing kind of the same job I was doing for news and for the sports department, and
Okay.
just slowly earned opportunities, to go to a Cubs game and help out with the sidebar and stuff. And got the Chicago Sky beat, covered the WNBA, was back up on all of the professional sports beats, covered March Madness in 2018 when Loyola went on that exciting Final Four
Oh
run.
yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so when the pandemic hit, started covering. They moved me to the news side of the paper, and I did that for 2 years and decided I want to get back into sports, which is how I found myself in San Francisco covering the Warriors for the Bay Area News Group. Covered the Warriors for 2 years, including the 2022 title run, which was
Mhm.
just, I felt like I was on cloud nine the whole time because basically what happened is I started the job in March. I drove myself, I packed up my car, that's all I took. I got to San Francisco on like a Monday. I started on Tuesday. There was a game on Wednesday. There was
Wow.
another game on Friday. And then on Saturday, went on an East Coast 5-game, 7-day road trip. So there
Mm.
was very much like baptism by fire, like dropping you
Yeah.
off on the deep
Throwing
end.
you right in it. Yeah.
Yeah, sink or
Mm.
swim.
Yes.
Luckily, I swam and
Yes.
survived. Very tired, but I survived. But yeah, that was a whole adrenaline rush, and it was just so fun. I love San Francisco. And then covered Michigan State last year. Had a few things that brought me to Michigan. Being
Yeah.
close to family was one of them, and uh, got paid a raise and stuff, which is always nice. And
Mhm.
now I'm here in New York covering women's sports for the New York Post. I originally moved to New York, was looking to be a freelancer because my partner got a job here in New York. And so luckily it all worked out. The New York Post was hiring a women's sports reporter. And, that's kind of my expertise and my passion. So really excited about this opportunity. And it's been really fun, to see the way that they're investing in women's
Yeah.
sports.
That's I mean, a wonderful journey. I love hearing the journey of where you started and where you are today, and everybody's path is different. A couple of things I wanted to ask you about your DJing, and you wanted to be a DJ and everything too. Do you still have that passion for the music and things like that? I know you do sports writing now, but you said you want to be a DJ, so it had to be some type of love for music on that.
Oh, yeah, I still love music.
Yeah, yeah.
So I listen to just about everything, and except I'm not a huge country fan. That's
Mm.
probably the only genre I don't really swing with, but gotten really into house music as of late. In thanks to my partner. But yeah, I used to play around with trying to like mix and stuff. I wasn't any good. I
Okay,
interned at like a top 40 radio station and I loved
yeah.
it. I got to do some of their like promo mixes and stuff.
Okay, okay.
But yeah, it was, it seemed like a lot of fun. Like I think I would have loved doing that, but just
Mhm.
longevity, career longevity and stuff. I didn't know if that industry uh can be a little volatile sometimes. So can
Oh,
drinks.
yeah.
But
I'm sure. I'm sure.
yeah.
It's interesting because you said I had to ask about the music thing because I'm thinking about when same thing, I wanted to be a DJ too at the time, and,
Mhm.
I was all into, like, mixtapes and things like that growing up in the '90s and, always making mixtapes, like, mixtapes for my friends and then started dabbling with turntables and things like that and mixing and
Mhm.
stuff like that because my cousin, he was a DJ and is a DJ still, and, we kind of he was making beats and we was all into that stuff. So that's why it was interesting that you said you wanted to be a DJ. So I kind of resonate a little bit with that as well. But
Yeah, yeah. I was
it-
always the one burning CDs for my friends,
yes,
like, putting
yes,
them onto
yes,
new stuff.
yes, always,
What
yes.
is this? Like, I was
Mhm.
really into Mac Miller, like, very early on, and,
Okay.
like, for I don't even know what grade I probably was, like, in middle school, early high school, or
Mhm.
something like that, and, they're like my friends were not they're like, "Why are you listening to this stuff?" I'm like, "Just
Just
listen to
listen
it."
to it. Yeah, yeah.
Sure enough, they all became fans, so I I have a
Burning
way.
CDs. Wow, burning CDs. I bet you some of the younger generations probably thinking, wait, CDs burning? What's all that? Like,
Yeah.
yes, we used to burn
They didn't
CDs.
actually light them on fire.
No, no, yes, we burned CDs. We had all those music sites that most of them shut down probably by now.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yes, that was the era. And then I even before, like I said before, then it was mixtapes. It was tapes,
Mhm.
recording tapes, and I will always there. Everybody would always say, "You got all the new stuff and everything to go to the mixtape stores." Yeah, that's a whole other conversation
Mhm.
in itself. But I want to get back to the writing and the love of it that you have and journalism part of it. Journalism has changed so much over the years, and you're like I said, you're living proof. You're in it and
Yeah.
everything too. What do you think of the, how people consume it? And journalism in itself has changed dramatically. What people think about it, and things like that. So that was one of the questions I definitely wanted when I want you on the show. Want to ask you about long form writing compared to short term, the with the reels and things like that. But what do you think of how it's changed over the years?
I it's funny because this is definitely a long conversation to have,
Mhm.
but I'll try to keep it short. Um, I worked with some really great people at the Sun Times who were part of the journalism heyday. Like Rick Tellender was working at Sports Illustrated when he was making more
Yeah.
money than like
Mhm.
baseball players, like MLB players. Like he would be out and, you know, they would find him at the bar and be like, "Oh, it's on Sports Illustrated tabs." Like back
Yeah.
when journalism was extremely profitable and stuff. And so to hear those stories, it makes you wish that you lived in those heydays or worked during those days just because some of the storytelling that they were able to do, some of the access that they had, to tell stories. And I think, now as people in general, we've changed a lot. Everyone has a personal brand, which is great.
Yeah.
But everyone wants to control that personal brand. I mean, I know I'm guilty of trying to, you know, I don't know what I'm trying to say there, but everyone is like guilty of trying to like put on a persona. And I think sometimes
Yeah.
like people at times lose like authenticity. And I think since 2016, there's been a lot of issues with just trust in media. And I don't even like the term like media, because like what is media? It's all encompassing.
Yeah.
And I think that there's opportunities. What I like about the current landscape is that there's opportunities for everyone. Like you don't have to go the legacy media route where you start at print newspaper and like hot papers and work your way up the ladder. You could start a podcast. You could get on TikTok and post TikToks and stuff like that. But I think sometimes we lose there's like just like a lack of trust
Yeah.
in modern media, and that hurts me because like I'm very much a traditional like reporters are unbiased, like they're not the fans of teams, like they don't
Yeah.
have that emotional connection to teams that fans do, which fans love and hate at the same times. But so it's just very interesting. And then also my one last thing I would say is I've covered a lot of men's sports. I obviously also have covered a lot of women's sports. I think closing the locker room is extremely detrimental to being able to build relationships with
Yeah.
players and being able to tell more genuine, authentic like stories. Whether it's, hey, I remember there was a Bulls player that used to have a picture of Britney Spears in his locker, and it's just like, why do you have Britney Spears in your locker? Like, this is a really odd guy, I will say. I think it was Robin Lopez, if I remember. But
Oh
like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
just like goofy guy. But like those little things, like you can kind of tell stories off of them, right? Or it's a
Yeah.
conversation starter. Maybe you find out that you both like Britney Spears or whatever. And then also too, if like a player has an issue with something I write, let's talk about it. Like
Yeah.
let's,
Yeah.
and unfortunately in the current way that, especially the WNBA works, it just feels like it's very transactional. It's very question answer. There's not a lot of room for those conversations, to have about whether it's defending the pick and roll or, what another team is doing, or just like authentic conversations. Like, how's your family? Like,
Yeah.
how's your mom doing? Like things like that. And so it's just like it's a different way to build relationships when it feels very transactional and they see you and they don't. And I think some people don't understand our jobs as reporters too. So
That's
that's,
good.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of different like
Oh
things to
yeah,
cover
I'm sure
there.
we
So
could
I
we
hope
could
I
probably
gave
do
you
a
a good,
whole podcast just on that alone.
yeah,
I'm sure.
yeah.
Like you said, you've seen it over the years. I've seen it over the years too. Just an observer, and then really getting into it, and it has changed. You said you're right. 2016, with the presidential, the way our current president, the way he's has shifted how media is accepted or not accepted
Or
to
perceived in
you
general, yeah.
perceive, yes, all that, yeah, agreed, 100%. And then talking about using the term fake media, and now people are, yeah, people they bash the media, they bash news, but there's the good too. There's, like you said, reporters like yourself and others who have gone through the trenches and really said very authentic and trying to get those great stories out there too, which is still prevalent, still important
Mhm.
as well. So that's what I look for too, like the storytelling of it too. I love reading long form or whatever
Mhm.
short form as well, whether it's TikTok reels and things like that. But I am a long form fan, and always been. Me and my wife, we talk about this all the time. She said, things have changed so much with how she said, like, I want to see a 1 minute reel. I said, I'm good with that too. It's just I'm still more. I want to read more in depth things to get a
Mhm.
bigger picture of stuff. So I love profiles and those things too, because I think you can get things out of a 2 minute reel, but you can also you get more in depth when it's more long form.
Mhm. And humans, like, we're all so nuanced and we have so many different layers and stuff.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
when you only have like a minute reel or 30-second TikTok, you're just scratching the surface.
just
And I
scratching
just,
it. Yeah,
yeah. And so I think, like I said, there's a way to ingest all kinds of different media. There's a place for everyone, but I'm like you. I have a soft spot for really good, long, in-depth reporting and writing and storytelling in general. And I always tell people, you mentioned just the lack of trust at times. Like, I'm human, just like you're human.
Yeah.
I'm I had an editor a long time ago tell me that, as print journalists, our mistakes get printed, and this is kind of morbid, but like doctors' mistakes get buried kind of thing.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
and so, I'm bound to, I try to do my best. I try to be as accurate and as fair as humanly possible, but I know, sometimes we all have slip ups, but I
Yeah.
can also
Yeah.
own up. I'm not afraid to own up to
Right.
anything if I ever, did make a mistake, but I always try my hardest. Like, making a mistake, you can ask my friends. Like, it is like a meltdown I have if I ever make a mistake, because I care so deeply about
Right.
like having that trust with the audience and stuff like that.
Right. And like you said, you try to you said be as authentic as possible and as accurate as possible
Mhm.
too, because you said you want to make sure everything is accurate. If you have a source, you want to make sure it's true and right
Mhm.
and correct. I'm sure you go through all
The
those
vetting
hoops and all
process.
those, yeah, right,
Yeah.
yeah, the process. Yeah, yeah. I
Mhm.
get, yes, and I love that. I love that about reporters and media and things like that too. And again, just to, I'll ask you another question. It's a somebody brought this up, I think, when I was interviewing someone. They said about like streaming and when you're watching TV shows and movies, it's different now. Before, we used to say week to week we watch a show or a sitcom or something like that. That used to come every week, once a week. Now it's like it's like everything is streaming. Everything is like we're binging, I should say, and
Yeah.
6 episodes, and here, boom, here it is. That's like the that's like short form. You get it done quickly, but now you got the long, when it's a 22 episode show, which we don't have anymore. So I guess that's another part of journalism and media, I guess, too. So I didn't think of it that way when people are saying, oh, you got from binging to not traditional watching TV. It's like, oh, that's a good point too. So yeah,
Mhm.
it's a that's a whole, yeah. I wanted to ask you that because I know I said I got to get when Madeline's on, I got to ask her that is, as you said, your more long form reporting. And it's just changed over the years. Social media too is another from 10 years ago. It's that's changed how people consume content as well. So let's get into what are some of your favorite moments in your career so far that you've covered, games, and you talked about the Warriors and that championship run. I'm sure that was definitely one of your favorite moments. But what are some other favorite moments that you've covered in sports or just in your career?
Yeah, I've been really fortunate to cover a lot of like championships
Yeah,
and
yeah.
championship parades and stuff. Like, we had a long running joke, me and some of my colleagues, that like championships follow me just because I was in Chicago for some of the Stanley Cups. I was in Chicago when the Cubs won the World Series.
Mm.
I was, with the Sky when they won the championship. And then I go out to, San Francisco, the Warriors win. And then I go to Michigan and Michigan football wins, like it just seems. And then I come here, in the month I come here, the Liberty win a title. So it
Yeah.
just feels like championships follow me. I didn't cover the Liberty's championship title, but I was watching it on TV, just right behind where I'm sitting right now.
Yeah.
But there's so many great moments. Like, I'm so incredibly blessed to be able to have a front row seat to history and be able to chronicleize history too. Like, chronicling it is, extremely special and a privilege that like I don't take lightly. Um, so my favorite though is just that Final Four run, because that was my first taste of like a big sporting event,
Okay. Yeah.
and being able to cover it and travel and kind of being that boots on the ground and the adrenaline that comes with that. That was in 2018 with Loyola, and they ended up losing to Michigan.
Michigan. Yep.
Um,
Mm.
in the Final Four, but that whole run was crazy. And then, um, being able to, it's also just about like covering, retirements, like legendary retirements,
Mm.
being at their last game where they get that last standing applause. It's, you know, the hometown hero comes back after a trade and plays
Yeah.
a game back in like the on home ice and stuff like that. Like, those are all stories that I really enjoy telling. And you just see, and even like some of the fan stories that I've done in the past about, one of my favorite stories with the Warriors was I went down to Southern California and spent a day with Klay Thompson and a Make-A-Wish kid who was just this boy from Alaska who's the biggest Klay Thompson fan. And the parting gift that Klay gave him actually was a picture that Kobe Bryant gave him and signed.
Wow.
And it was just like one of his prized possessions. And it was just really special to see and, see Klay in a different light than just like him being a basketball player, like seeing like, different emotions be shown and stuff. Like it was just, those are some of the stories I really enjoy telling. Anytime I can humanize an athlete and make them relatable, like I take a lot of pride in that.
Yeah, I like that, the humanization of these athletes, where it's, like you said, it's beyond their sports, beyond them on the field or on the court, and just like we were saying earlier, it's just those type of stories that I enjoy reading. Just to see, and that's interesting when I do when I do my background on my guest or whatever, I look on their sometimes on their Instagram or something on their social media, just to have something different to talk about besides just the career. It's great what they do, what you do, and everything. But it's like I said, the human side of it too. So there's a question I want to ask you about your sneakerhead. So
oh gosh, right? Yeah, you can't see because it's blurred out, but there's shoe boxes back there.
Yes, I
Probably
saw
for the
that.
best side, it's blurred out.
The Queen sneakerhead. Plus, I guess your nickname too is Championship Maddie, so I'm assuming that's But being a sneakerhead, on that note, what are some of your favorite sneakers, or where that passion come from? Because I'm a big sneakerhead too, so we have a lot in common. So that's a thing in common. But I saw some of your sneakers that from your pictures, and I was like, oh yeah, she definitely is a sneakerhead. So
yesterday I was pretty excited because I got the bricks.
Okay.
Bricks. So I was pretty excited about that. I put the white laces in; they look really clean and fresh. It was one of those. That was one of those shoes that you see like in a photo, and you're like, I don't know if I love that. But then you see it in person, you're like, oh, these are nice. And so I got those. One of my shoes that I hold very near and dear to my heart is my Nina Chanel's, my 3s. Just because that was the first time I ever like won a raffle or a draw. And I was like, I just remember getting the email. It was after I played a softball game, like a intramural, and this was only a few months or a year ago, I guess. But I was like sitting having beers with some of the people, and I was like, "Where's my credit card? I gotta pay this.
I gotta get it now because you only got a certain amount of time." Right.
Yeah. I love a lot of like Travis. I have a few grails that I don't have. I don't have like any of my grails, if I'm being totally honest. My boyfriend's also a sneakerhead, and he's got his collection or his rotation right now puts me to shame, just because it's got like the fragment lows and stuff like that, and the Mars yards and all those like great pieces. But but you know what? It's hard. I have small feet, so sometimes it's really hard to find shoes out in the wild in my size. So sometimes when I can find them, I have to get them.
Yeah. The hunt is always still good, and it's interesting because sneakers have become it's such a big phenomenon, and they have their positives and negatives too, with just like anything else, sneakers and in general, people restock and all that.
Box, don't even get me started on the box.
And I know, right. Yes.
Just that pisses me off.
Yeah. I just my wife's not a sneakerhead at all. She doesn't like it at all. But we have a good friend. We've been to Sneaker Con the last 2 years here in Philly. They've had it 3 years now, but we've been the last 2. And they just had one Super Bowl week actually. And I mean the stuff that some of the things that you see and you're thinking, oh my goodness, man, there's so much heat, so much things.
Oh gosh, but you can't. Some of them you just know you're never going to be able to have them.
Right.
So
expensive, and I'm not willing to pay. Yes, I'm not willing to pay. I'm just not the type that want to pay so much money. I'll pop if it's something I really, really want, then yes, I'll go and grab it. But I'm not like thinking. But you try to negotiate. They're like, well, we can't go lower than 300. I'm like, okay, I understand.
I trade in these 2 shoes to be able to
yes. What are you looking for exactly? So I'm not. Yeah, but some of my favorites, the 6s, of course. Those are still the bread 6s, bread 11s. I mean, I'm even going back to when I had them in high school and trying to get them again. But you said the quadruple the price. But it's got to be something I really, really want if I'm going to spend that type of money on sneakers. But I'm good with just walking in the store. Sometimes you can't even do that anymore. You can't walk into a store
Yeah.
and find something you like. I mean, there's a variety of things, but I'm into the ones, a lot of the ones.
I was
Whatever
gonna ask you,
color.
what's your favorite like Jordan of all time?
Probably the Bread 11s, probably any of the 11s. Because I mean the Concords, the Space Jams, but the Breads are like my favorite. Them and the six, the Bread sixes are my favorite Jordans of all time. But I've been into the ones lately and Dunks again. I always rotate different ones
Yeah.
too.
I really like the fours. I don't know why.
Fours
I
are
seem to
that's
always
classic.
gravitate to my fours.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
are classic. I think the first six Jordans probably are, like those are, the fours are definitely up there. But I think the first six Jordan are like some of the best ever.
Mhm.
So, but the fours, of course, those are classic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, man, we can have another conversation. We can have another conversation. I gotta get you back on. We gotta definitely do this again.
Yeah.
For sure. For sure. All right, then we'll get back into just a couple more. I want to let you go. Let's talk March Madness on the women's side. I know you, like I said, you're probably locked in now. You've been locked in all year, but locked in for sure. Any surprises or what you're looking forward to heading into the tournament, and who you think will win if you had a prediction?
Yeah, Notre Dame dropping to a 3 seed was a little bit of a surprise. I know it's been a
Yeah.
little rough, like, down the stretch, obviously, but, like, I just thought that they had enough quality wins against, like, big-time opponents that they would still be, like, a lock at number 2.
Yeah.
I love seeing 3 Ivy League teams in the field of 68 just because, looking at Princeton, Harvard, and Columbia, I thought all 3 teams were extremely talented, and they were in the top 50 net. So it's just, like, if all 3 of them didn't get in, it's like, okay, then how are you picking? Because you can't say that you're using this measurement or this like tool to help like figure out, who's going to be in the field and then like totally abandon it just to get like another SEC or Big Ten team in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I would say those are two highlights. I think I'm trying to think of who I picked. I think UCLA is going to make their first Final Four run. I just think they've been one of the strongest, most consistent teams.
Yes.
Inside-out game that they have. Betts is the best true college center since Brittany Griner. I think you can say that. Just really think that they're a hard team to beat. I like USC. Can't bet against Juju Watkins and just her ability to will a team to a win. She's gotten so much better this year from a year ago, which is crazy because she was so good last year.
Yeah.
And the selection committee, they knew what they were doing, putting USC as the number 1 seed in that region and UConn as the number 2 seed. They knew what they were doing.
They knew what they were doing for sure.
Yeah. So I think I have them. I like TCU. I just think there's something about they're one of the oldest teams in college basketball. I mean, Mark Campbell really is. Some people don't like the transfer portal. They don't like the modern college landscape. He's embracing it. I mean, his team is mostly transfers. The average age is 22. I really like Haley Van Lith. I think that she's got a really good game.
And competitive.
So she's got that dog. Like she's just like, she's one of those you're just like, she's got it in her.
She's got it. Yeah. She's going to lead this team to she's like, I'm going to take this team and put them on my back from last year where she was buried in LSU and really couldn't, her skill set and not to cut you off. And then just as what you were saying, Haley Van Lith, I'm like, she's showing what she was a couple years ago. Like, we knew
the one that we like, when she was at Louisville and like really put herself on the scene, like that's what we're seeing this year, which I think is great, and it wasn't, unfortunately, like sometimes the transfer portal works and sometimes it doesn't for certain players. And I think, like LSU, I mean, look,
they were loaded.
So I'm really excited to see the way that she leads this team and what they're able to do. Let's see. And then who am I missing?
South Carolina. What do you think of
South Carolina? Duh. Of course. I'm surprised that, I read a few columns about the South Carolina UCLA number 1 seed.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you.
And I thought I would have picked South Carolina as the number 1 overall seed. I know UCLA beat them earlier in the season, like a late November game.
Yeah.
But you have to remember South Carolina in late November is not the South Carolina that we just saw totally annihilate the SEC in the SEC tournament.
Yes.
So, they were still figuring out like how this all works without Camilla, like, what they wanted their offense to look like and stuff. And so I thought they should have been the number 1 seed. Just, I think they had the most quad 1 wins, or at least tied for the most quad 1 wins. They're second in the net. Thought they had the toughest strength of schedule, if not one of them. I mean, like Dawn Staley knows how to schedule for her team.
Yeah.
Put them in that position, and she intentionally has them playing the best teams because she thinks she's setting that standard for her program. And so for it not to be like rewarded with the top overall seed, I mean, shoot, they just added fuel to a fire that was already
shouldn't have done it.
So big. Like, yeah, they're I really think they're just gonna blow the tournament out of the water. I see South Carolina going for a repeat, but at the same time, I think that this is the NCAA tournament that we're going to see from the women's side, that there's actually going to be like true chaos and upsets. Just because the women's tournament, it's like, oh, pick the top seed. You're going to end up better because of it. But I think some of those 11 seeds I really like. I mentioned the Ivy teams just because I've gotten to watch them really a little bit more closely just because of my geographical location. I've gone to a few Columbia games. I saw Princeton play. I really like Harvard's Harmony Turner. I think she's a baller. So I think that there's a chance for an 11 seed to break a bracket.
Bracket, yeah, it's hard to say, but bust a bracket, break a bracket, that's tongue tied. But no, you're right. I think I agree with everything you said. And the Dawn Staley, I was watching the selection show, and they were asking her about that. Holly Rowe asked her, and she was just saying that, I'm just going to say this one time, and she said, the women, she was just saying our teams just we're focused and we're gonna. And I'm like, yeah, you could tell the body language and how she's like, yeah, you guys just woken a monster, and this is something you don't want. And you could tell she was upset about not being number 1 seed and the overall number 1 seed. And but you're right, it's like you're number 1, and we know it, and you guys are gonna probably they're gonna go like they're gonna prove it. They're gonna prove again they're the best team more than likely. I do like UConn too, and because I think with Paige Becker's not forgotten at all, not at all. But it's almost like, you know what I mean? That, Juju Watkins, but the name we talk about Paige Becker. Gino's he's been pushing her to say, okay, it's time for you to take over. Now she's been doing that down the stretch. And it's like, no, not forgotten at all. This is Paige Becker's. Yeah. This is the one. Like she's gonna, they can make a run. They can make a huge run, get to the Final Four once again.
Yeah. At a minimum, Elite Eight.
The minimum.
That matchup between Juju and Paige is going to be so exciting to watch. Like I'm predicting it right now that we're going to be able to watch that.
Yes,
and I think it's really hard to say who's going to win. I mean, USC had their number in the regular season this year, but UConn had it last year. I think Sarah Strong is so incredibly talented.
Good as a freshman too.
Especially as a freshman. Yeah, like because all the conversation or the narrative around UConn heading in was like, finally we're gonna see Paige and Fudd, like 2 stars are finally healthy, gonna be playing together. And Sarah Strong as a freshman's like, hello, actually I'm gonna be part of this. It's a 3-headed monster. It's not a 2-star team. And so I think she has incredible upside and it's gonna be really fun to watch her develop over the years. But yeah, don't sleep on UConn. There's a lot of teams. I think Notre Dame, concerning about what we saw in, down the stretch. I think they lost 3 of their last 5 games. But I've seen Notre Dame play some really good basketball this season. I do not doubt the abilities of Hannah and Olivia in the backcourt. They're the most exciting backcourt duo in college basketball, period. And so I think, and I love Neil Ivey as a coach. I think she's a phenomenal coach. And so I think, they're another team that has potential. Baylor's played really well. Texas. I mean, there's so many teams that you're like, Texas, man, like they could, like Texas with Booker and stuff like that. Like they could they have the potential. And I even think about Michigan State. I mean, the UCLA Michigan State game, like they had UCLA sweating,
Had them on the ropes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think, like, same with USC, they came back. I think USC had, like, a double-digit lead, and they cut it to single digits in the 4th quarter. I mean, like, you see that fight, and this is only second year that Robin's been with at the head of the program, but I think, they lost, I think, at the first round last year, if I remember
I think
correctly, to
so. I
North
believe so.
Carolina.
Yes.
You know, that sucked, but maybe this is, redemption for them to some degree. Maybe that experience will help them this time around have better leadership from a player standpoint and kind of a more been there, done that attitude, and can right the ship this year. So
For
we'll see.
sure. Yeah, it's gonna be chaos, like you said. This is like the I always call it the month of madness. Then the madness begins. Yes, this is gonna the women's tournament is definitely gonna have some chaos and madness, which we love when it comes to this. So, all right, I know I kept you a little longer. I've enjoyed this conversation.
Okay.
I just got 2 more. I want to ask you transition to the W, and what are you looking forward to mostly? Just a couple storylines in the W. We had all the free agency moves and trades, and I mean, there's so much. And I saw that you had a whole feature on that. This was last month, and which I enjoyed that. And just to catch up on the W free agency this past season felt like the NBA's usually when it was just so much was happening. You couldn't keep up with so many moves and trades and everything else. But what are some of the things you're looking forward to heading into this W? And you had Unrivaled that's now at the end, the final, I think it's tonight. I believe the finals tonight. Yep, the finals tonight. And so what you think of the W heading into this season?
Yeah, there's so many exciting story. Like, it's hard to pick a few, but I think it's nice to see the WNBA free agency kind of catch up to the player movement that we see on the men's side, just because I think it makes it for a better experience for fans. You never want to see your star player leave, like BG leaving Phoenix. I never thought I'd see the day. But I feel like that was kind of the writing on the wall that Diana Taurasi was retiring. I think this is a great, exciting opportunity for BG and for Atlanta. It'll be interesting to see how they have the two big situation, how they balance that with Jones too. Just because their head coach, what he did in college, he loves guard play, so shoot a lot of threes, very much a high volume 3-point shooting team. And so it'd be interesting to see how he balances out the roster that doesn't necessarily seem like it reflects his style. And Phoenix, I'm excited to see, how that all looks once they're all together playing. Obviously had a lot of player movement and changes, and they won the Satu Sabali sweepstakes, which is good for them. I think Beaver is going to be really good, getting that experience around a young core. Caitlin Clark is going to take that second year leap, and it's like, what does that even look like? I don't even know. But,
dangerous.
I don't even know what it's going to look like, but I just know it's going to happen. And, for the Liberty, they're not done yet. Like, we saw that with the trade that happened last night. I think Cloud, like I said, is a great pickup for them. Still haven't signed Stewie. I think they're waiting to see where, like, the numbers come in with the roster to figure out how much, like, they could pay her maybe. So there's still more to come, I think, but I do think that this is going to be a really exciting year. And we haven't even touched Vegas getting Jewel Lloyd, Kelsey Plum in LA. Like, I don't see LA right now being a team that's going to make a late, a deep playoff push by any means, but I do think that they're laying the groundwork for a year or two from now to be extremely competitive. And so I think, there's a lot of excitement, a lot of programs or a lot of teams in different areas of, contending versus on the rise versus what is your vision?
Got the expansion.
Expansion too throws a whole nother. I'm surprised. I kind of think, if you're going to do expansion, which I know, people feel a certain type of way about what I'm about to say, but I almost think that the Valkyries should have had the number 1 overall pick, period, just because if you think about it, they're getting the 7th best player on any given roster. And free agency is really tough because it's hard to recruit people like star players to take a risk
Right.
on your franchise when you don't even have anything like established necessarily. You have a good coach in place, you have a good GM in place, you have the facilities, which I thought would lure more star power to Golden State, but you don't have any proven product yet. And so it'll be really interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, I do like that idea that they should have let the expansion team get the number one pick or at least top three for sure. But they definitely should have let them get the top pick. And it is going to be tough to for. I mean, I guess we don't know until they start playing and get their chemistry and everything. Too, you said they got the GM, they got the coach, and they got some players. They got some good players, but it's all about putting together. It's a new team. It's a whole new team. And everything too, but I agree with all the storylines. I think each team actually has a storyline coming into this
so fun.
season. It's so much fun, and it's so much player movement, and it's been great. And he got the new deal, that's been this lingering, coming up. The collective bargaining is coming up after this season. So we'll see what that's going to look like. Is it going to be a lockout? Is going to be there's so much different things, and this season is going to be it's going to be incredible. I'm looking forward to what you're going to cover with it and everything too. But just in general, the season in itself is going to be it's going to be amazing. But you're right. I think Indiana, all the movements they did, a dangerous. A dangerous Caitlin Clark, more dangerous Caitlin Clark with all the movements they putting around. They're putting a team, they're building that team around her, and oh my goodness, yeah, them and you said the Liberty. The Liberty it's funny because there's been so many moves on that, but the Liberty are the defending champions. They're going to defend it. They're going to be even more. They're even going to just be more hungry to defend and say, hey, we're still the best team in the W.
I also think like Nafisa Collier is like reaching her prime.
She's on a mission.
She is gonna the way that she's just dominated, unrivaled. Like her game continues to get better and better. I mean, she's MVP candidate for sure this season.
Oh yes, for sure.
If not MVP.
Yeah, they probably will be MVP. You're right. Nafisa Collier. I mean, her endurance. Oh my goodness! Like
like in her just two-way ability to do it two ways and stuff like that
on a high level too.
Yeah, like
on a high level.
She's extremely talented, and I think she has high potential to take that Minnesota team very far.
Yeah, could get them back to the finals and then definitely close the deal. Yeah, they're another team that they didn't even make that that type of moves like that, but they're bringing back just about everybody. So,
don't sleep on them. Yeah,
don't sleep on them at all. So, all right, last one, then I'll let you go. Women's History Month, and like you said, you covered all these leagues and things like that. But I want to ask you, what does Women's History Month mean to you on a professional and on a professional level and on that level of Women's History Month?
Yeah, I just I really am lucky. I had a lot of like mentors really early on in my career that helped me, grow as a writer, reporter, and everything, interviewer and stuff like that. And so I just hope that like long term I can kind of pay it forward and give it back to, other aspiring journalists, women and men, just because I know our industry could be a little unforgiving. It could be hard to get your first break and stuff. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just making sure that you're always paying it forward and appreciating those that blaze the trail, so to speak, before you.
All right. Love that. I love that. All right. Well, Madeline, this has been so much fun. I've really enjoyed this and getting to know you a little bit. And hopefully we can do this again. I would love to have you on before the W, do like a deep dive in a preview for sure. Because I know you are one of the best and most knowledgeable just in general reporters, not just what you do, but just in general, just everything you got going on too. So I really appreciate it. Yeah, for sure. I love the deep dive that you put in that work, and like I said, like reading all your things, all the material you put out, and so I would love to have you back on right before the W season starts. So hopefully I'll send you that invite, and hopefully we'll do it again.
Yeah, totally. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, and you can follow Madeline on all the podcasts, all the social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram. Are you on TikTok too, or?
Yeah, I am, but I don't post very often. I'm more
Okay,
of a
all right.
scroller.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm like that too. I got TikTok as well. But yeah, I know you're on Instagram, you're on Twitter or X. And are you on Threads and
Yep,
all the other
Threads, Blue
ones?
Sky, all
Blue
that's
Sky.
all Mad Kenny. Yeah.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna follow you on. I'm not on Threads, but I'm on Blue Sky. I just did a Blue Sky last a couple weeks ago. So I jumped and said, let me. I gotta get on Blue Sky because there's so much things I'm probably missing. So let me get on
Mhm.
Blue Sky. But yeah, if I and also the New York Post. So continue supporting the New York Post as well. So again, thank you, Madeline, for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks again. Have a good
All right,
day.
all right, you too. Thank you. Have a good one.